And to be honest with you, there is no such thing as balance when it comes to entrepreneurship. There is going back and forth, right? It's like a seesaw. There's never really that balance.
Let's go, let's go, let's grow, let's grow, let's get it, let's get it.
Fast forward to today, and everyone's here in this restaurant. Again, we're live at Neir's Tavern. I'm going to introduce you in a little bit. And one of my good friends, Loycent, owns a tavern, the oldest standing tavern in New York City. It's about 196 years old. In October, it'll be 196, and they're on their race to 200. And I sat there, and we'll talk a little bit about Loycent's history, but former lieutenant in the fire department, owner of this establishment, husband, father. And I asked, were there any times where you had to make tough choices? Were there any times where you were concerned about the outcomes of your choices? Were there any times where there was no perfect solution? Someone was going to be upset no matter what. And so he agreed to meet with me today, have this conversation. And so with no further ado, I want to introduce to you my good friend, Loycent Gordon, all right? So, again, this is streaming live, so if you want to send it to your friends, the link, they can go to Black Dad Unfiltered. They can do a search for the hidden cost of entrepreneurship. But Loycent, tell us a little bit about your journey towards owning Neir's Tavern.
I think oftentimes where we end up is not where we designed ourselves to be. I know it's really great to say, hey, we were destined to be here. Yes, that is true, but oftentimes it's not by our own accord. There is a hidden force that is moving things, and sometimes you're not in control. And that's a situation with me being involved with this historic tavern and gotten to a place where people are looking at this result as like, oh my God, look at this, New York Times, look at one of the only restaurants that have a street named after it now. And, all of these crazy accolades, United States congressional record twice. And, there is like you said, a cost to that, right? And my destiny, I guess, if you want to put that I didn't control was that I literally bump into this tavern because next door there was a recording studio and I was trying to be a DJ because, and there's a reason why I say that, because I come from a very, 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 very humble beginnings. And I had to pay my way through college. My parents didn't have it to give, but I was fortunate they provided a roof over my head. Food and all the other things, I had to take care of myself. And so DJing was a path for me to get some level of financial security, get a education through college and paying the tuition. So I decided to go out and do what I know best, which is become a professional DJ. And right next door was one of the most famous studios in the country. Salt and Pepper actually recorded their album here, and Black Sabbath had, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne, had recordings here and all of that stuff. So the guy decided, hey, you're a DJ, you should tell me what the next hit is. And so I was here, in the studio, and next door he kept saying, these people can't pay the rent. What do you mean, these people? And I came over, and that's how I discovered Neir's Tavern. And it wasn't Neir's Tavern as is today. I came in, and we had two guys at the bar, and a Saturday night, $200 was like a big deal. So it was in really bad shape. I'm like, guys, this is not going to work. You're 6 months behind. But I look back at my journey and said, why did I get involved? And it was very interesting how years later, looking back, we talk about destiny, I look back and I understood. I understood because I was a kid that came to this country illiterate, and someone helped me to learn to my ABCs at 10 years old. And I look at this, and it was like the abandoned person, that abandoned grandfather that was left in a nursing home, and I wasn't left. And so I got involved and say, you know what? I see a little bit of myself in that, and I got involved to try to help, and that's where it came from, just from helping and seeing a little bit of myself, that someone didn't abandon me, didn't throw me away, and I'm going to save this important tavern.
So that brings me to one of the biggest questions for anyone who's trying to take on an endeavor. I believe you were married at the time, right, when you decided to try and purchase a tavern?
No, I think we had just started dating.
Okay. All right, you were dating. Okay, good. So, because I was going to get into that, making a decision like this while you're married. But just take us through the mindset, because as you said, you learned your ABCs at 10. You were DJing just to put food on the table. What was the mindset in terms of, I can buy a tavern and I'm not a chef and this is not my background? Like, what was some of the fears or the mindset of going into that?
I got to tell you something. Let's be honest, all right? I'm not going to give you the fluff today, right? This is not about that.
We're unfiltered.
It's unfiltered, all right? I literally went in just bleeding heart, like really just bleeding heart, wanted to truly help. And they say ignorance is bliss. If I knew what was in store for me, I'm not sure how I would if I would get involved and how far I would go with it. You don't know, but you just know you want to help, and it's a progressive assistance that you get along the way, and deeper and deeper. And so that's how I kind of decided to jump in, just blindly, bleeding heart, wanting to help. And this is the result of that, right? So that's where I was. But along the way, you have to, you learn a lot of difficult lessons. And maybe we'll get into a little bit of that. But that was the mindset, was really just to help out. You know, what if this Jamaican immigrant can jump in and help save one of America's oldest tavern? You know, that would like prove my worth, right? That would prove my worth. That would prove that people that helped me when I was, 10 years old, and that thick Jamaican accent that I was ashamed of, would actually, like, this is my chance to give back and to pay it forward. Sure. So in my mind, outside of the superficial, that was the thing that was kind of driving me in the back of my head. Okay. And that's how I kind of like got into it in my mindset.
All right. So now we're committed. Let's fast forward. You mentioned a few of your accolades, right? You've been congressional.
I'm gonna tell you now, I'm not a fan of accolades of myself. I say it's the community's accolades. Okay. I'm only one person, but through us, we could do a lot more.
Yeah,
so
okay, that's cute. So we got a few accolades here. We have several politicians coming through this tavern because of what the tavern has been able to do, what has been able to represent the community. Now, there's a journey from when you started to now, and during that process, you got married, you had children. This is the part where now I think we want to dive into the hidden cost, right? Again, I'll tell a little bit about my story. I walked away from a 6-figure career 19 years ago to be a stay-at-home dad, right? Because my fear was, all right, I'm sending my son to these schools. He's coming back with scratches, and I'm just saying, I can't do this. I'm going to be more present and figure out how to make it financially. But then as you go through, you realize, well, money's important. Money's important because these kids want to play sports, they want to travel. But now to go get the money, you may not see me as much. So can you talk a little bit about trying to balance being the owner, proprietor of the longest standing tavern in America, one of the longest standing ones, balancing fatherhood, especially at this age when they're young?
Yeah, so that's a really important question. If anybody have kids or married, and I think an important thing is that if you're in a relationship where both of you are not entrepreneurs, there could be a disconnect. There could be some dissonance because you're living in a different world. And to be honest with you, there is no such thing as balance when it comes to entrepreneurship. There is going back and forth, right? It's like a seesaw. There's never really that balance where both people are like right there. It's really like a seesaw. One minute you're here and you gotta grind and I can't see you and all this stuff happen, and the other minute, you're trying to catch up and spend time at home and deal with all of the things that you're supposed to do as a dad. So the balance hasn't been too much as a balance as people would think it is. It's going back and forth. And so I'm going to give you an example of how I try tactically to keep the so-called balance. My wife is here, so I don't want to get slapped later. But, all right, here's the nitty-gritty. I'll go home, and, we do the whole dad thing, the husband thing, and whatever else is. We go to bed, and a lot of times I would get up after she falls asleep, and then I get to work, right? And so while she's taking her 8 hours fully, I'm taking 4 hours, right? And get up, and I'm there, still present. So these are some of the sacrifice. So I'm going emotionally, health-wise off balance to make sure the family is still balanced, right? Does that make sense?
It stays there.
Right.
Was your wife aware you were doing this?
I think sometimes.
Right. So
I'm
how
not.
do you
I'm
deal
not.
with that?
You know.
How do you deal with no one not knowing what you're doing, being raised as a man to say we don't talk about this, right? We just do it because it's part of our badge of honor to sacrifice. How do you deal with that mentally? Like, I am tired and I can't tell no one I'm tired, because quite frankly, everyone knows the saying, who cares? And sometimes even within, I'm not saying your wife, but sometimes even within your close circle, how did you kind of keep yourself, for lack of a better term, sane?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I love my wife, but
You may want to say that louder, just in case,
Yeah.
because you went from being slapped to now love.
yeah.
I don't know which one comes first.
But I feel like I want to protect her. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I don't want to share my burdens, the deep entrepreneurial burdens, with my close family members. It's okay, we share in the accolades, the things that people feel are so cool and everything. Great, we'll share together. But to share the deep pain and frustration of trying to achieve something, and I remember trying to do that, and the answer is, and it's a right answer from many loved ones, is why don't you quit?
Wow.
Why don't you quit?
That's like a dagger, though.
And you're just like, because they care,
Yeah,
right?
It still hurts.
They care. They're coming from a place of love.
get
They
it.
don't want to see you hurt.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurism, it's almost like you're sadomasochism. What do you call the word? You're hurting yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's, but you know that deep down there's something driving you that I can't quit.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to explain that to someone like your loved one that's not in that world. And so how do you find solace, right? How do you find a way to release, to decompress?
Yeah.
And I think everyone have to find their own way. I see Elizabeth here, and I think she recognizes and understands the things I'm talking about. And some of the things manifest itself very negatively. There are negative ways to decompress, to purge, and get that out because you can't tell anyone. And I see people like, we were in the restaurant hospitality space, and Burrell, who's a chef that just committed suicide.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't talk it. You see Anthony Bourdain, who was here. A year after he interviewed me right here in that bar, he killed himself, right? And so why is that happening? Because you have this disconnect between, I can't really share what's really, really going on with my loved ones, right? Because it's hard to understand, but I still need to get the struggles out. And so you try to get with groups like, the Goldman Sachs alumni group, things like that, where it's entrepreneurs. You get with, all these different groups of entrepreneurs. And it's so interesting how we just purge on each other when we come together. Yeah. Because, like, wow, you get it. You understand. You said a couple words, and it's almost like you're completing my sentence,
Gotcha.
And so that's one way that people do it. And I hope that we can find, healthier ways, because we see the opposite when it doesn't happen.
I'm going to take what you said and bring it a little bit broader, because that's my fear. Because we're talking about entrepreneurship, but it's the same thing with fatherhood. And again, I can only speak to fatherhood because I can only speak to what I embody. So me and Carlos have a famous saying, just because I'm for me doesn't mean I'm against you. So for today, I can only speak from the perspective of a father. But that burden is there as well. As a father, you cannot tell, you don't think you can tell all your loved ones, your partner, what's going on. So I'm a cancer survivor. And to survive and live, I had to stop doing some of the things I was doing for my children. I couldn't take you to, I have 3 kids. I coach all their teams. I can't take you to softball Saturdays. I literally said Saturday is my day of rest. Because if I'm going to be here, I got to rest. And my kids will get upset. I'm not mad at them. They're kids. But the pain that I would feel from disappointing my children, and I can't tell them you're hurting dad, because they have to have their place to express themselves. When I'm working late, and we're both entrepreneurs, and my daughter wants to hang out, and I'm sitting here like, listen, I gotta get this out, because if I don't do this, I can't pay college tuition, and see her sad. When your partner, it's a lot. So my fear is we gotta find some place to talk about this, because in our community, amongst men, fathers, I can speak to black men, it's almost a slow death, right? So this is where I say there's a hidden cost to this, and hopefully from this conversation, this authentic, unfiltered conversation, people are walking away with, okay, that's me. Maybe I can find this and do that, do this, and do that. But again, we're just going to keep talking. We can't give people answers, but in our conversation, hopefully it opens it up. So let me ask you this. Was there ever a time where you had to make a decision and that benefited your family, but they didn't understand the decision? Is that making sense?
Well, I mean,
now, if you think you're going to get slapped, you can say next question.
Listen, we're constantly making decisions that is meant to benefit our families. That is just a given. Sometimes, you don't even share what the sacrifice that went into that is. You just do it because it's just the right thing to do. I want to say that, if I could just say this week, prior week. So my son finished camp, or we're not going to continue putting him into camp. So he was with me the entire week, and I thought he understood what I was doing and what I was working on and all these things. And I remember a few months back, my wife texted me and said, Evan said he misses you, and I didn't even realize how much I was running,
Yeah.
And this week, he was running with me. He was just like every meetings, everything here. I tell him, go bust the tables, just really real life stuff. He was painting something with me. I'm saying, you're going to get into it with me.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the week, after 3 or 4 days, and I don't say this to be facetious or anything,
Sure.
but he came, he's like, Dad, he got in the car and we're driving, he said, Dad, are you famous? like seriously,
Yeah.
do you so you own this? My son didn't even understood
Yeah.
that I own this tavern and some people happen to know
Yeah.
who I am and
Yeah.
certain things like that. And he went, I think one of the bartenders here, she could tell you, he went behind the bar and he was pouring, not a beer, but he was a soda. So he's like,
Yeah.
we're trying to show him. And he's pouring a soda. And he told one of the guys at the bar, guys come up to me and he said that he's a sub owner. It's okay. I said, what?
What? Yeah.
He said he's a sub owner. So that just these past few days alone,
Yeah.
he truly understand that, yeah, my dad owned this business. It seems like some people know him. And I'm a sub owner, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's important to shield your kids sometimes because they're kids from some of the harsh realities. But at the same time, it's also important to show them what you're actually doing because it brings context to why you're away so that when he's thinking, hey, I miss daddy, oh, he must be doing this for me, right? I hope that, so I'm hoping that when I go out of balance, that he starts to connect that and maybe it'll make the process a little easier.
Okay.
Right? That's my
So
insight.
it's funny, right? Because my kids, I don't know. As much as I tell my children what I do, in one ear, out the other, it is what it is. But I'll say this, because this is a challenge I have, and maybe you can help me. So, again, I told everyone that I made a conscious decision, walked away from a lucrative career to be more present, to be there with my kids, to be there for every step, every graduation, every play. And what I started noticing was even with me doing this and trying to shape who they were going to be as global citizens, that the outside world still had so much influence on them, greater than the role model that's actually in front of them every day, right? And so that brings up the next conundrum, right? Because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as just a hardworking person, mother or father, right? Being away now, to me, is more dangerous than it was 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And that plays a mental game with you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I'm going to build this life for you, but then again, I may not know who you're becoming now.
Yeah.
And if I'm here trying to help guide you, I'm still fighting all these influences and I still can't provide for you. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is so true because with the advent of social media and access to electronic devices, it truly becomes where the internet and all of these social media influencers are actually parenting your child because they're spending virtually or otherwise more time with those people than they are with you as they get older. And so they always say the first 10 years is those formative years, and then hopefully from there they can withhold some value or take some value away to make decisions when they're not with you. But after that, at a certain point, it becomes them just how much can I hold on to myself, my values, and not be influenced. I tell you now, I didn't recognize how much my mom did for me. Coming from, my father, abandoned me and everything as a child, and she raising me, she also gave up a career to be a nurse. And I didn't understand that till later on. And now I'm looking back and I just feel this sense of love and gratitude for her more so than I've ever, because I recognize now and I'm able to recognize, internalize the struggle that she went through. Yeah. So sometimes these kids are unaware of the difficulties that you had to go through, the six-figure salaries in order to make sure that you give them enough of a foundation to go out there and make right decisions in the face of influence and all these social pressures. And so we can only do what we can do. And the rest, we just have to leave it up to say, hey, we did what we can, and leave it up to God and leave it up to their own self as they find their own identity. So that's like how I'm starting to look at it. So you don't have to try to figure out how to solve, the entire journey of them growing from a child all the way to adulthood. I figure I'm just going to put in some, value-driven actions here so they can see and hopefully be a role model that they can go back to and say, all right, this is my rock. I see it. So when they make mistakes, they could, come back and confide in you and maybe make a better decision. That's how I'm kind of looking at things at this point. But it might change. We don't know. I've never been a father before. I'm scared to death. I'm literally I don't know what I'm doing, man.
You know what? I think that's the first thing, because I didn't realize I didn't know what I was doing until my son turned 19. I was like, okay, I really didn't know what I was doing. Okay. So the elephant in the room, because we're both Caribbean, right? And I was on Buffalo News, and I was making this statement. 30 years ago, you mentioned your mother. 30 years ago, my parents each worked 12-hour shifts. And we talked about this. And I was so proud of them because I just saw that I had hardworking parents. And at a young age, I knew they were working hard for me. I can't lie to you and say I understood everything that was involved. I can't say that I understood all their sacrifices, but I knew they did it for me.
Right.
And I felt a sense of obligation to protect my parents, to do right by my parents. I don't know if my kids necessarily feel the same way. My son, we dropped him off in college. He says, I think you owe me a bike. I said, I owe you a bicycle? Yeah, it's part of my education. This should be your responsibility. I said, get a job. But in his mind, he was dead serious. Yeah. Like, part of me being here should be you getting me this speaker, these headphones, this bicycle, and I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, I almost died to get you here.
Right.
Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And my son's a great kid, but how do you, because you have a younger kid, I think, how will you, you mentioned the word value. That's what triggered this. Yeah,
I think, I started looking at that as well, looking at my mom. And at a young age, I felt, I don't know, maybe is something to this. There's a through line. Watching your parents making the sacrifice does something to the child internally to connect and say, hey, you know what? They're really making a sacrifice for me. Maybe I should do better or be better in life. And I felt the same thing growing up. I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want my mom giving up, her time or energy and all of the stuff that she would want to do as a younger adult to have that be done in vain. And so I've always felt in the back of my head that like time is running out. I don't know if everybody, it was just weird, even as a young person, like I felt time is running out. And I remember one guy was like, why are you always so rushed? You're doing everything. Why? Just relax, you're young. And I just felt like my time is running out. And I don't know if that was connection with, my mom and everything she sacrificed, that maybe I wanted to save her from that. But it did something for me. It did something. It gave me a sense of urgency. It gave me the ability to work hard, to keep pushing forward. And that, to me, is the greatest gift that my parents can give me. And people like myself and even my parents who come from a place of lack and scarcity oftentimes shield their kids from that. And the greatest disability that we give to our kids is the ignorance of our sacrifice. And we need to figure out how to connect those dots between sacrifice and success, because it gives us the ability to translate to that kid a sense of urgency, a sense of values, to push forward and work hard and understand the value of $1 And I think we're kind of missing that in today's society.
Yeah, that's very powerful because I know in my own circle, we always say, my kids will never want, right? So we try to give them everything that we, not complaining, but piggybacking, right? I'm going to take you here. I'm going to do this. You're going to go to these camp. All this stuff. But I never even dawned on it into how do I connect that without making them feel bad that, listen, this is what it costs, not just from a dollar perspective, but from a me perspective, right? And when they don't understand, you still got to keep. This is why I'm asking you, because you're in a different position than I am. Your son now is, as he's self-proclaimed, I'm the son of the owner. Right?
He's the sub owner.
Sub owner, okay, sub owner. But now, how do you balance this?
Yeah.
These are all the nuanced things of when we say the cost.
Yeah.
Because the cost is not monetary. It's the emotional, it's the wear and tear, it's the up night. So how are you going, now that he's the sub owner, and I'm assuming he believes that he's going to inherit this place.
Maybe.
Maybe, right? It's tough. It's tough. So let's fast forward. All right, now we're here. What's piece of advice that you would give yourself, your younger self, that was doing this out of this sense of community, that now is married, has a beautiful wife, loving wife? Well, I'm going to say wife because from what you say, she beats on you. Right? I guess she beats on you with love.
Yes. A lot of love.
I kid. I joke. But no, a wonderful family. Like, what advice would you give yourself now that you can reflect and say, okay, I may have taken these different steps differently?
Yeah, I always felt, I remember someone was interviewing me here, and he kept asking me the same question, but why did you do this? Why did you do this? Why did you get involved? And I'm like, I want to make things better. I want to help. I want to save, And he kept asking me. And then after maybe 5 or 6 times, I'm like, what is this guy searching for?
Uh-huh.
And then I just blurted out. I think it came very, very deep. And I said, I just want to belong. For me, I wanted to belong, and what am I trying to do here, right, is to try to make people feel like they belong because there is so much division that's happening. And if I can carve out a little piece of the world to make people belong, then I think I'm doing something that's fulfilling. And so in line of that, my one advice that I thought about afterwards, what is the one thing I would tell my younger self? And it's the same thing I would tell I'm starting to tell my 9-year-old. Whatever that's happening in your life, whatever struggles, financial, emotional, mental, all of these things, for me, and it seems very simple, is to always go out and just help someone. I'm going to tell you why, okay? I got involved in this tavern not to be a multimillionaire. I just came to help. I want to help. And that has led me to you interview me on the big stage.
On your stage that you own at that, right?
But it's all of these things.
Sure.
So if you are ever feeling depressed, just go help someone. If you're ever in a financial bind, just go help someone, right? If you're ever struggling with something, the key is just to go out and start helping someone. Pick someone to help. They had a famous study, and they were going around and giving people a $100 bill, and it said, you can keep it or you can give it to someone. And the greatest satisfaction and fulfillment that they felt was to give it to someone. So when you give a part of yourself to help, you also help yourself. And a lot of things just start happening from that. I don't look for a return. And I tell you about this helping someone thing, and I'll bring it back to business. I remember going to my friend who had an amazing diner, and he does, he's doing a lot of community events. I'm like, great, we're doing the same things. It's great. We're doing all this stuff. We're giving. We're all this stuff. And one day he said, Lloyd, I'm just not seeing anybody coming back from all the stuff I'm doing in the community, coming back to the restaurant. And I'm looking. I'm like, huh? What do you mean? No, I don't see any. I'm doing all these things. The restaurant should be full. And I didn't get it. I'm like, a disconnect. I was like, oh, do you think by giving, you're supposed to just get people to fill your restaurant? I'm like, you're watching what I'm doing, thinking that's why the restaurant is full. And maybe there is something to that. But I'm just giving because I want to help. I have a different marketing strategy. That's a transactional marketing strategy. But what you're doing is that you are, and if you want to bring it back to this metaphysical, is that you are creating a void in the universe when you're helping. And eventually people will collapse to help you because you're giving so much, if you want to bring it back to transactional. But I was just helping. Mm-hmm. And that came back full circle. And the circle of giving is so wide and long, sometimes you lose track of it and you can't measure it. And then things just come. You say, how did this happen to me? Yeah. Because the circle of giving and helping is so wide and long, you lose track of it and you're like, I don't know. I just get it. Mm-hmm. But it continues. And I give you the exact answer to that. January 9th, I make the announcement that I'm going to close Neirs Tavern. Right? January 10th, the day after, 24 hours later, we had thousands of people outside there. We had almost every news station broadcasting live, trying to find out what the fate of this little tavern is. We had New York Times, NBC, ABC, CBS, and it even went national to MSNBC, interrupted their broadcast and said, we have this little tavern that's in trouble. I'm calling on all my rich billionaire friends to go help it. And I'm like, why did this happen? And I said that the circle of giving is so wide and long that you lose track of it. And it manifests itself into thousands of people. We end up getting a 10-year lease. We end up getting $90,000 grant. And we end up saving one of America's oldest taverns.
There's a spiritual principle behind that as well. But if you want to take it from spiritual to just economic, one of the traits of successful people is charity. It is one of the biggest traits. I want to bring it back to a more grounded question. Was there ever a moment in your journey where you started questioning if the sacrifice was worth it?
I don't want to get too deep because you don't want to see a black man cry. It's ugly. It's ugly. There were several instances that really hit my soul deep. One of them was, I remember, we started out with partners and said, we're going to do this together. Come on, just getting some help. And I remember the day they told me, we don't need you. Oh. That hurt it. So they took a lot to come back. But these are some of the things that kind of helps drive you when you're running out of gas. Yeah. And sometimes it comes from a negative space. Another thing that was really, really, challenging for me about, is this worth it? It was, let's just say there's a lot of stuff.
But that's what we're trying to get, right?
There's a lot of stuff.
That's that hidden cost, right?
But there's cost to it, guys. And you have to be doing this because there is something within you that if you don't do it, you'll feel incomplete, right? And so I'm trying to fill that hole. And yes, I give you the 2-for-1 burgers and the discounts and stuff and get you in. That's great. Restaurant Week and NBC and all this stuff. That's great. That's, but there's a couple levels deep of why we're all entrepreneurs in so many ways. We've been hurt in so many different ways that we're trying to find completion within ourselves, and it drives us to do things that is not rational. And Steve Jobs said it, entrepreneurs are not rational beings. If they were, they wouldn't be doing this. And it takes that unbalancedness at times and irrational to get to the spot. But yeah, but at the end of the day, you have to look back. Hindsight is 20/20. I think it was worth it.
Okay, that's fair. So what I love about what you said, and we're gonna start winding down soon.
And can I finish on this?
Go ahead.
The day I realized it was worth it, I was standing right outside there, and somebody was talking to me, and I just kept looking over his shoulder, and he's like, "Why? This guy's not looking at me in the eye." And it was the street sign. It said 78th Street, and right below it, it said Neirs Tavern Way. 2 years after they put that sign up, I recognized that maybe we did something here.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we did. And I was like, you know what? No matter what happens here, I have to be okay. It's that you did something so important that no matter if this place closed, they said this place was so important that they named the New York City street after it.
I think it's the only restaurant to have a street named after it.
It's probably, I don't know. But I say that. I say one of the only because I don't know.
For sure.
Right. But there's not many.
Yeah, there's a part of your history that I want to tap on because I think I would be neglecting the show if I didn't. There was a time where you were working a job and balancing this tavern. And that to me is something a lot of people don't realize.
You want to get into that?
About entrepreneurship is the burden.
I'll tell you a story about
Please.
one of it. So I became a New York City firefighter because 9/11 happened and I wanted to help. So I got involved and became a firefighter. And so I ended up doing both. And this is a funny story. I remember we had a really long, crazy fire in Lower Manhattan. It was a church on fire. And it was like 8 in the morning. I think we finally, they relieved us, and they got another unit. And I had a interview here with one of the news stations and here. So I came in, and I'm still kind of the stench is kind of still, because I just came because I was running late. Came, and the TV was on, and the lady says, "Oh, man, look at that fire last night. It was crazy, wasn't it?" And I was like, that's where I just came from. In my mind, I didn't even tell her. I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy what I'm doing, right? I'm running from that fire, getting off, and coming here and dealing with that. There is so many stories. I mean, I'm sure anybody that's an entrepreneur could tell all these stories. But yeah, I was doing double duty for a long time.
And that's probably going to be for another show. But I just want to highlight that because, again, the cost, your health, your sometimes emotional stability, especially if you can't find an outlet. Typically, it's hard to find an outlet because not many people are willing to do what you're willing to do, right? And then trying to be present. So trying to protect what you're building, because what you're building is not only for your family, but it provides livelihood to other people. Protect your union, right? Because that's what completes you. Be present because you're building your other legacy, right? And what people tend to see is, wow, you own this tavern and you're on the monopoly board. So, I think you said it before, is the juice really worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
Folks,
that's my favorite statement nowadays.
So, folks, again, I want to thank everyone that tuned in online, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. We're here live at Neir's Tavern with Loycent Gordon, the owner of Neir's Tavern. And this was just a show talking about the hidden cost of an entrepreneurship and parenting and just trying to make it in this world. Thank you all. Let's go. Let's grow. Let's get it. your wife asked, what was your driving force and how, as your wife, can help you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my wife is actually does valuable just priceless work. She's a psychotherapist. So marrying a firefighter, right? And also an entrepreneur with this thing. You kind of, like you need help. I'm gonna tell you how one time she helped me, and I didn't value her profession as much as I should. And I was going through something, and I talked to her, and the way she spoke and listened, mostly listened, wasn't my wife per se. She just kind of, I was like, this is what you do? No, serious. Like, you don't realize the work that therapists do. And she did some mojo on me. And so my answer to your question is, do more of that.
Psychoanalyze them. I don't want no parts of that. Yeah. But you know what? Even though we're done, I do think this is a great time to talk about how our partners can impact us. Because what I was hearing from what you're saying was that she created this space where you can communicate, right? And for a man, sometimes that space is just hear me. Just hear me.
Yeah, it was.
You don't got to carry the weights with me.
Don't give me the answer. Don't try to give me the answer. I know.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's grow. Let's grow. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's go.